All right, so this is not what I intended. Originally, I shot a video for the whole process of assembling the Raspberry Pi, and I messed up the setting. I forgot to change a setting for the Zoom recording, and so didn't really capture the camera I put on the assembly process. So I already got the Pi assembled. Actually, I'm gonna just gonna explain this through the process. Hopefully, you're still gonna get most out of it. And if you have questions, somehow anything is not clear, and I'm going to actually host a live session just to help you guys get things set up. All right. So sorry about that. Now, so I'm kind of, this is a redo, but I'm just gonna walk you through this and some of the things I'm not gonna do anymore. All right, so that's, so you're gonna get this box as part of your IoT kit. You're gonna get this Cana kit, which is the Raspberry Pi kit. It includes the Raspberry Pi and some of the basic things that you will need for the Pi to work. But it does not include any of the electronic components, and those are extra stuff that you pick up as part of the package. So in this video, I'm trying to explain to you how to get this Raspberry Pi set up and ready to go. Excuse me. All right, so let me find that box. In this box, this red box here, this contains the Raspberry Pi computer. Is a version 4, Model B, 4 gigabytes of RAM. So it's actually a very good, it's one of among the Raspberry Pi computers, this is probably the best today. So it's fairly powerful. In fact, despite the size, it's small. So when you open it up, you're gonna find this mini computer here. And then when the way to handle, when you hold on to this, please do not touch, any of the components sort of on both sides, and just try to just put your fingers along the edges, just like how you handle a photo. You don't want to put your fingerprint on a photo, but this is not a photo. I'm saying if you actually handling touching the inside, you may potentially damage the Pi because the static electricity could run through your body. And so just be careful here and just hold on to the side along the sort of plastic areas, okay? And I already got something put on top. So this is actually the inside the box. You should find a little packet of 3 pieces of metal like this. If you look at the other side, is the Bluetooth tape on top. And these 3 pieces are the heat sinks. Heat sinks are, the purpose of those things are to help reduce the temperature of some of the modules on this computer. And it's necessary to install them, actually. So the biggest piece is for the CPU right here in the middle. Since this is right now covered and you do not really see it, there's this square, the biggest thing here on this board. That's the chip, that's the CPU. So you put the heat sinks on top of these. The order of doing these actually is you're going by the smaller. So there's 3 heat sinks. You install the smallest one first, and this is on top of the USB controller. And then And then the second one is the rectangular shape. That's on top of the memory. And then the biggest piece is for CPU, right? So that's your first thing. Your first step is get those installed, and then go ahead and get them installed. So you peel off that blue tape gently, and then it has a sticky side. Once you peel it off, and then just place that on top of the chip. Try to center it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to put it right on top of the chips. Okay. So once you have that done, and you put this, well, okay. So let's put this into this. There's this case in one of the boxes. Is this box? This contains a case for the Pi that it helps protect the Pi. So you open it up, open the top, open the middle, and then take the bottom out. The bottom is the ones with a lot of holes here. Okay. So open up the case like that, and the case like that, and then just slide in the. You see the corner. The corner has a little plastic piece around the corner. You need to slide it in, and then set it down like this. The side with the ports are on this side where it's marked on the case. HDMI port 0 and 1. This is for the audio jack, or audio and a video actually. And then you have the USB-C power. This is the power port. And on the other side, you got those USB ports, okay, 2.0, 3.0, and then this is a Ethernet port for RJ45 cable. And then the other end of it, actually, there's a little tiny slot here. This is for micro SD. This is the storage. And so the SD card is in this little packet, the shiny packet here, and just open it up and then take out the card and slide it in. So when you slide it in to this slot, the side with the words, with the red words, Samsung, right, 64 gigabyte, and just slide in like this on this side. Okay, if it's the wrong way, you can't get it in, by the way, so don't use too much force. This is the right way, right? And so once you have that, place the body on top. The body, you see it needs to match. So this is this is the case. So just put this on top of this. All right. And then for right now, you can cover up the top. We're going to take off the top actually quite well. When we get to working on the IoT projects, this top will have to come off because we're going to use, you see there's a lot of pins here. There's like 40 pins. This is the GPIO. This GPIO connector, this is how we're going to connect our electronic components to this Raspberry Pi. This is essentially you building extension to the functionality of the Pi, and I'm going to work with this, and there will be a separate video on this, and then we're going to have a different lesson. Okay, so for today, for this video, we're trying to get the Raspberry Pi set up. All right, so for right now, you can put the cap, the top cap on top of it, and just let it closed off for now. And actually, this is the wrong way. Okay, just like that. So it's all protected. Now, we need to set up the system. And so there's another box in there, box like this has the power supply, the power adapter. Okay. So for any electronic devices, if you're not doing this, you should be actually putting, you don't want to plug this directly onto the wall. You want to use a surge protector, all right? And then this other side is USB-C, and the USB-C goes to the power port. There's only a single USB-C here. Just plug into this power port, okay? And now the box also contains the micro HDMI to HDMI cable. This you will use to connect the Pi to a monitor or a TV if you don't have a monitor. Okay, so one side is the micro HDMI, and the micro HDMI goes to the HDMI 0 port. And the other side is a regular HDMI, goes to your TV or your monitor. And I already have some of those things in place. So I don't need to use that cable, but you should, if you don't have another, just use that. Okay, the next thing is to connect the peripherals. So you should have a USB keyboard and a mouse. USB keyboard and mouse, and it goes in here. Just use the 2.0 ports. Okay. Like that. And then your HDMI cable, connect to the HDMI 0, the one next to the power port. And then you connect the power. Once you connect the power, it's gonna start automatically. It doesn't have a shut off, like a power on off button. Now there is a cable that's provided that gives you the power switch. You don't have to use it, but if you want to use it, you can connect to it. If I can find that cable here. Okay. So this is the one actually. So we can actually use this. It's not super necessary, but I think it might be more convenient than plugging and unplugging the USB-C cable, but this is optional. If you do want to connect it, you will basically, you power cable from the wall, connect that USB-C into this switch first. And you try to turn this on or off. Try to turn this off first, and then you plug into the Pi, and then you can use this button to turn on and off. Okay, it's a very simple device. It's a switch on the power cord. and you don't have to use it, it's optional. Now, so once you get this connected, the system will boot. And the first time it boots into it, it's going to show you configuration screen. Unfortunately, I already got this set up, so I don't have that to show you. But I'm going to, again, in our live session, I'll help you out, all right? So what you will see is the screen just choose what operating system to install. And then what you should do, actually, the first thing is to connect your Wi-Fi. I hope you have a Wi-Fi at home. So just first, you see at the very top, there's a place to select the Wi-Fi and then just get that set up. Choose the Wi-Fi network and then put in your password. And then once you get that connected, it's going to show you some new options because now it's downloading what's available on the internet. And then you can choose the option. The operating system you want to install is called a Raspberry Pi OS full 32-bit. I believe it's the third option. I don't recall the order anymore, but this just reads the Raspberry Pi OS full. So that choose that and click on this and get that installed. And in my original video, I believe I still have a good portion of that video. I'm going to connect with this. I'll put this together so you can still go from there. And then, yeah, so there's the setup to do. But basically, what's remaining is first to get the OS installed. Once it's installed, it's going to reboot into the system. Once it gets put into the system, and then there's a couple of setup. I believe in the other video that I shot earlier that should have it. Okay, this is the right following. I'm gonna put these two pieces together. And then after the OS setup, there's a few minor changes, and then I show you how to set up the SSH access as well as the VNC access. Those are the remote methods. So typically when we work with the Pi, we're going to connect remotely either through SSH. That will be a terminal method. You just use a terminal to connect. Or you can connect to the desktop of the Pi through the VNC software. And that part I have shown in the rest of the video. And you go ahead and check those. Now, the desktop, if you want to remote access desktop, your Pi has to be connected to a display. It could be your monitor or your TV if you need to access the desktop. But that's about it. So basically, once you got the remote access set up, you don't need to use your keyboard and mouse anymore. So if you could have borrowed your keyboard and mouse from another desktop computer just for the setup. Once it's done, you don't need to use that anymore. All right. Okay. So this is it. I'm going to end this portion here, and then you'll continue with the rest. Thank you. All right, so we finished the installation. You see this little pop-up here that says OS installed successfully. Click OK. I think it's going to reboot. All right. So now we're in the Raspberry Pi OS, and this is the desktop. And that's finished the setup. It says, welcome to Raspberry Pi. Few things to set up. Okay, click on next. So select country and United States, time zone, and here will be Los Angeles. Use US keyboard, just keep that checked. Next. Right, first thing is we're gonna change the password for the user Pi. So there's a default user called Pi, and that's the user you log in with. And the default password is not very secure. The default password is for Raspberry. Okay, so make sure you make up a strong password that you also can remember. All right. So I've got a secure password here, and then click next. Now we're setting up the screen. And if you notice, your screen shows a black border around the desktop, like it's not filled up to the entire screen space. And then you just check this box and click next. It now is selecting the Wi-Fi network. Now, during the initial boot up sequence, we only saw a network called when I mentioned that was only 2.4G, but for faster connection, I usually want to connect to the 5G version. So, but that was not available previously, but now it's available now while we're in the OS. So this is an upgrade. So we're gonna connect to that new network instead. You don't have to if you don't, you don't need to change your Wi-Fi network. Just this is what I usually do. It will give me a faster speed. Okay, first thing is asking about is to update the software. Although we just installed from the internet, I don't think there's much to update, but let's click on next. So while that's downloading, and this is optional for the taskbar. So the taskbar settings. Show tooltips. Okay, taskbar is fine actually. Let's see panel settings. Okay, that's what it is. The panel settings. So by the way, I right click on that that bar over here at the top, and I normally just want to put it on the bottom, and just like how you would see this on Windows, for example. It's just a personal preference. You don't have to change it. So click OK. So while this is installing, I was trying to get my my PC ready because we're going to mostly accessing the Pi remotely. Okay, so the software installation is happening. Let's let this thing do its work. Right now, I'm going to get to the process of well, actually, I will have to let the update finish first. All right, so I'm going to come back once it's finished. All right, so it's finished. What you'll see in the end is system is up to date. Click OK. And then we need to restart. So click on the restart button. Now, Raspberry Pi OS is a Linux OS. It's actually based off of Debian OS and similar to Ubuntu, if you're familiar with the Linux. But it's probably a little more lightweight. Doesn't have too much stuff installed by default. I mean, you can, this is the full OS. You can install whatever utilities you like to install. And okay, so we are restarted. Okay, so good. Now, next thing we want to do is to enable remote access. And First of all, let's change the preferences to enable a couple of services. So you click on this at the bottom left corner. It's out of the view here. Let's see if I can. So at the bottom left. Okay, so right here. Well, in your case, if you did not change the position of the menu bar, it would be at the top. But anyway, if you see the the Raspberry Pi button over there, and you click on this, just like the Windows menu icon. And we're going to select preferences. And then in the preferences submenu, click on Raspberry Pi configuration. All right, it should look like this. If you chose the proper application, this is the configuration app for Raspberry Pi, okay? And then click on Interfaces tab. And we want to enable a couple of things. So SSH, click on Enable. And then we're also going to enable VNC. All right. So for now, let's enable these two things. Click OK. And now let's actually try. Let's actually open up a PC. I'm going to share my screen. So if you look at the attendee, the ending with a PC, you can double click on that user, the TPC. And that will be my PC user. So we're going to switch to PC. If you're on a Mac, I'll get to Mac after this, all right? So let me share my screen. Okay, you can see my screen, all right? Okay. Okay, one of the first things with the PC on Windows, okay, is that if you don't have that option set, this is one of the things that you should do. So you just kind of in the search bar, you search for the developer settings, click on developer settings, and make sure you turn that on. Okay, so if you're using your PC for development, you should turn this on. It's going to bring you a couple more tools that you'll need. Yeah, just do that, all right? Close this. And then the other thing you need to do, I would suggest you do, is to install this Windows Terminal app. And so the way to install Windows Terminal is to go to the Microsoft Store. And then search for, just type in Windows Terminal. Basically, the very first one that shows up, just click on that. Now, double check this is actually from Microsoft, right? So not from any other places. I don't know if there's going to be duplicate, but make sure this is the one from Microsoft. So you install this app. This is the primary terminal I would like you to use. This is a sort of the better terminal than what's already in your system, if you don't have this installed yet. So go ahead and install this. I already have this installed, so I'm going to skip this. So you go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to open this Windows Terminal. basically we're opening up a terminal here. And then we're going to use PowerShell. Well, actually, there's one more thing kind of forgot to do, which is kind of important. So switch to the Raspberry Pi, the phone user. Just double click on my user. So it will put that in focus. All right. Let's see. Well, actually, let me just stop sharing so you can focus on looking at the other one. Okay. Okay. So back to this Raspberry Pi, and open up that configuration app again. Previously, we enabled the SSH and the VNC. So one of the things that I like to do is to change the host name. Okay. I like to be more specific about the host name that, in Raspberry Pi, that's kind of the default. If you're okay with this, you can leave it as is. I just want to show you. I want to change this name. I change this to RP 2021. All right. And then click OK. And this time we need to reboot it for the host name change, because we're going to use this host name for the remote access. So you want to use different names for your different Pi. Let's suppose if you have multiple Pis on your network, you want to use different names. Okay, so we're back. Now let's switch to the PC. We're going to use PC. You should have a PC standby next to while you're working on this. And your PC is going to be your primary development machine. And you can use your computer to access your Pi that way. And so I'm going to show you sort of two ways to do it. And let me share my screen again. Okay. So you should be looking at my terminal. First, let's test, see if we can SSH into that. So you should type in SSH Pi at that host name, RP 2021. All right. It says, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Type yes. Okay, so that's the password we set for Pi. Remember that we changed the password? The default password was Raspberry. So that's the password I said that you use something a little sophisticated and that you also can remember. Then type in that password now. Okay, so you see this here. You see this response with the Linux RP2021, and also the the CPU architecture on V7L. And it already shows Debian GNU Linux. And this is already, right now, we remotely logged into Raspberry Pi using this terminal interface. Okay, so if I type in, who am I? Right, this is Pi because this is the user we logged in. If you type your name -A, it's going to show you the full string of the system, describing what the system is. Okay, you just type ls, you'll see the files at the current location, which is your user home on Raspberry Pi. So you can do almost everything now with this, but then what if you want, let's say I want to see the desktop because, maybe some of the GUI application you want to drive that's on the Pi. Yeah, so there are occasions for that. So that's why there's going to be another way of accessing it. And before we go there, so you see every time we do SSH, we type in the password, it seems very inconvenient. Let's see if we can improve this. So that's a log out of the Raspberry Pi just by tapping exit. All right, so now we're back to our PC now. All right, you see this is C drive here. This is my current user home. So I'm going to type CLS, just clean the screen and start from here. So to be able to log into your Raspberry Pi without typing the Pi's password every time. So this would be desirable because you're going to do that a lot, all right? So let's get this set up. So let's first of all execute this command: SSH keygen. This will generate some files for the SSH access. If you don't understand everything, that's fine. If you're curious, you can ask me questions on the discussion board and I'll give you more details. So here it says enter the file in which to save the key. And we don't need to change. You're going to use the default, just enter. Okay, enter a passphrase. This is the password phrase to encrypt. Well, this is the passphrase to protect this ID RSA file. There's a public key, there's a private key. Public key is shared, private key is private on your host, and that needs to be protected. So I suggest you give a passphrase for this. This is the, by the way, this is your SSH identity on your PC. This has nothing to do with the Pi, right? So again, make sure this is a secure password, not 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing, right? Just make sure you can remember that too. If you have trouble remembering, and then you need to have a way to get your password and store somewhere safely perhaps, and then somehow you have a way to remind yourself what that might be. So again, this has nothing to do with the Pi. You should not be using a password somehow it's related to Pi. So I just kind of give you that. This is something you can use for many other purposes, not just for accessing Pi. Okay, so I gave it a password and now that's successful. So it has generated a key pair for SSH. Now, the next thing we want to do is to copy the public key to the Raspberry Pi so that this makes the Raspberry Pi to authorize your PC so that you don't have to type in the password every time, right? So let's type this command. And yeah, this is actually is easier this way. So you see, when you're using the terminal, if you're not familiar with the using terminal, if it's the first time, and then you're gonna take some getting used to. But I do recommend you getting used to the terminal. That's something that you're gonna use a lot in your programming life. And so this tilde symbol here represents your current user home. And actually, we are currently in the user home. That's, you see the path before the greater than sign symbol here. This is actually what right now in that place. And that's kind of default location whenever you open the Windows terminal. But regardless, because you could be in a different directory while typing this command. So you always want to make sure you have the correct path. So the file I want to copy to is under the user home /.ssh. Now, if you just tap click on the tab key, it will expand. You see, it just expanded that tilde to the full user home, which is the same as where we are now. So that's fine. And then you're typing ID, and then just tab again. Now it finds this file, id_rsa.pub. This is the file we need to copy to. So what you do then, you pipe, okay, SSH, RP 2021. Actually, the pi user. Don't remember. This is the same user, same way we just accessed the SSH before. Now, except that this time, we're going to also append a command to that host. Okay, let's see if this works. Well, I'm going to type in the password, hopefully one last time. So now this error here, it says that file does not exist. And again, this is essentially saying this file doesn't exist. Actually, what we should do is just make a modification here, because this is the first time we're using the pi. If we have used the pi set up with another SSH before, and this file would have existed, and then just remove that one, greater than sign over there. Okay, let's try this. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a look. Let's open up a new tab. You see that plus symbol at the top. Let's actually SSH into the pi. So the reason that was giving a problem is that, okay, this directory doesn't even exist. Okay. And actually, I'm gonna just fix this right here. Let's try this. All right. So this is the command, by the way, within this double quotes, this is the command that it will run on the Raspberry Pi after it established the connection through SSH. So we should actually be able to see. We should be able to see the file that we actually just copied over. And in fact, let's actually just examine this. Authorize the keys. So you see this file right here. The cat is the command to actually show the content of this text file. You'll notice that in the end of that string, which is the public key that we just generated on the PC, it has some information about your PC name and your username, by the way. And so that is going to be in this file. Okay, so let's back to the first tab. And let's try to do SSH. Now, see, right now, this time, when we do SSH, it's going to ask for passphrase for that key file. Remember that private key that we set the a passphrase for? Now it say, okay, this did not save much. Why do I have to, instead of typing the password for the Pi, I'm going to have to type a password for the ID RSA file. Okay, so get out of this. So basically now you see what just happened. We're typing the password for that private key, but we did not need to type in the password for the Pi. Remember that's what just happened, right? But again, this is still not ideal. And I don't want to type in any password because I have to do SSH quite a bit, right? So let's see if we can figure out a way. So there is a way. Let's see if this works. So you do get service SSH-agent, set service. You can do a space here, just make it a little nicer. And startup type, automatic. You see what I'm doing here? I use a lot of tabs. The tabs will complete the command for you. And also is a way to avoid typos. Okay. So enter. Okay. It gives me an error to say access denied. The reason why is because this command, you need to execute with admin privileges. So we're going to copy this command. By the way, you select this line and then click on right key, either on your keypad or on your mouse. Right key, that should copy it. And this time, we're going to have to open up another Windows terminal. You just kind of, you should have that Windows terminal, at least in the recent history, should be somewhere because you just opened it here. And then you right click. Oh, hold on. That's not right. Let me close this. All right. We need to open up okay, so right click and click on run as an administrator, okay? And click a yes. So now paste that command they just copied with Control V, okay? Then enter. All right, nothing happened. Well, that's the idea. I think they should have just see if, let's test this if it works. So to go back to the previous command, I simply use the, I just closed the other window, by the way. We're done with that command. So go back to the previous terminal. And let's test this out. Actually, let me see. Actually, let's close this. Well, actually, so let's get out of that pi in the other terminal. We don't need this anymore. Close this terminal. Okay, let's try. Okay, so that is actually not working yet. Not working yet. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I think we're missing one more command. SSH add. That's the command that we were missing, and let's type in the password for that private key, right? For the SSH identity. So, okay, identity added. Now let's try SSH again. Agent returned different signature type. SSH RSA expected. Okay. All right, so I did a little investigation. It turns out actually there is a bug in the SSH keychain utility. And when we generated the original key for SSH, and the SSH agent does not like it. So instead, we need to generate with some parameters SSH keygen and dash T ECDSA dash B 521. So we're going to use that file. So this is going to actually create a different file, by the way. So enter. Somehow got stuck. Let's try it one more time. SSH keygen ECDSA. Okay. Passphrase, just use the same one you used before. Okay. So we have this new file. And we're actually going to copy this file to, we're going to copy this file to the Pi. Okay. So the same command as before, but this time is a different file. Actually, This time this file already exists. We're going to do this. This is the Pi password. Okay, so that file's copied over. Now let's do SSH add. Well, listing was already added. Let's add that file that we generated. This is the file you want to add. And then passwords for that file, same as before. And then you can list out the identities added to that SSH server. So actually we got both added. Yeah, which is fine. So let's try, well, actually, let's try this. Okay, so it didn't work, but the first one, you know, we need to remove it. The one that we failed before. That's actually let's actually remove. Okay, remove the whole thing, and actually we need to add back the IDECDSA again. Okay. And then this is the only file that's there. There you go. All right. Sorry about that little detour. So you see, I was able to just SSH into the Pi without typing any password. So this actually is because there is a bug in the SSH program on Windows. Actually the SSH keygen has a little problem, and then there's actually, I just checked, there's an open bug report about that issue. So I'm going to I will share these commands with you, just so that you while you watch this video you can follow along. But I'm also going to give you some of the commands, make it easier for you. Okay. So let me note down this command that I just added. Get out of that. All right, so hopefully you followed along, and I'm going to, I will share those commands with you again, but if you follow along, this should be fine, and including that detour you went with me. Okay. Now, the other thing we want to do is to be able to remote log into the desktop of the Pi. If you want to use the GUI of the Pi, and this is the way to go. So the first you need to actually go to real Vnc. I'll just search it about the website. Okay. The real Vnc, you go to that website. You should sign up an account. It's free, and I already have an account. Let's see. This is my account. Okay, so I have an account. You found my account, but if you did not have an account, you should just sign up. It's free. And now I sign in. And this is the account you're going to use. Actually, go ahead and download the Vnc Viewer. And then this is a Windows computer. So we're going to, this is already selected. So you have different options here. And I like to use the MSI installer. Download. And then just OK. Okay. So you'll see this zip file has 2 files inside. And we're going to use the 64-bit. Hold on, let's see, we need to extract this. Okay, that should be fine. Next. Accept, next. Next. Install. Yes. Finished. All right. I'm going to close this. And so that's the VNC. Just type of VNC in the search bar. And it'll open that up. Uncheck the anonymous usage and got it. And then sign in with your account. All right. Let's see, what's my password? Okay. And so you see, this is actually my other Pi. And the new Pi we just set up is not here. We need to add that computer. So how do we do that? And so the thing is, you can just click on File, New Connection. And then type in the host name. RP 2021. And click on OK. And then double click. It says VNC not recognized. So continue. Okay, so over here, this is the login window. This is a login window to your Pi, and then so the username is Pi. The password is the password for the Pi user. And then just check the remember password so you don't have to type it every time. So you see, we just log it into the Pi desktop. All right. And for example, we can check the preferences for the configuration. Okay. And then you also notice that the VNC server is running on your Pi. That's why you're able to connect to it. There's a server on the Pi, and then you're using the VNC client to connect. So now you have two ways to access your Pi. Through SSH for most of the things you need to do. For programming, we're going to mostly use SSH. And then once in a while, we may use the GUI if we need to access the GUI to the desktop. Okay, so this is it for this video. So I'm going to end right here, and there's more things we're going to do afterwards. I'll record more videos, and thank you for watching. Bye.